Hey there, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast, I'm Sam Sachs. The haters and losers said it was impossible, but look at us. We made it to the Friday show. And we begin in the United States Senate, where lawmakers had another chance to rein in the president's illegal airstrikes on fishing boats in Latin America, but chose not to do so. 51 Republicans joined together to kill the War Powers Resolution. Only 2 Republicans joined with Democrats to support it. It marks the second time the upper chamber has defeated an effort to assert congressional authority over the White House's Venezuelan war plans. Pentagon has been building up forces in the region for months, which now includes an aircraft carrier strike group, warships, bombers, fighter jets, and thousands of soldiers. Late Thursday night, War Secretary Pete Hegseth announced the military had carried out yet another bombing of a boat in the Caribbean, killed 3 people. That's at least the 17th attack on a vessel in the region, bringing the death toll to over 70 people. Most of their names we don't even know. The White House is basing its attacks on a secret legal memo from the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel, which has not been revealed to the public. According to reporting from CNN, Trump administration officials told lawmakers Thursday that the legal justification it's using to strike alleged drug boats does not confer authority to attack land targets in Venezuela, as the president has threatened. However, quote, the Trump administration is seeking a separate legal opinion from the Justice Department that would provide a justification for launching strikes against land targets without needing to ask Congress to authorize military force. War Secretary Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio were on Capitol Hill this week to provide a classified briefing to lawmakers, including Democrats who were left out of a briefing provided exclusively to Republicans last week. The ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Democrat Gregory Meeks, left the briefing unsatisfied. He said in a statement afterward, quote, the Trump administration remains unable to provide any credible explanation for its extrajudicial and unauthorized military strikes in the Caribbean and Pacific. It was clear from this briefing that the administration's legal justifications are dubious and meant to circumvent Congress's constitutional power on matters of war and peace. I continue to believe these strikes are illegal and an enormous overreach of executive power. Next up, Trump's IRS confirmed this week what was long suspected. It's killing off the direct file program, marking a big win for the vultures who profit off making you pay to file your own dang taxes. In a notification sent to 25 states that participated in direct file, the Internal Revenue Service said it was terminating the program with no plans to relaunch it again in the future. Under former President Biden, the IRS created direct file in 2024, giving taxpayers a free alternative to report their income to the government, as long as it wasn't too complex of a filing. Hundreds of thousands of people used the service in 2024 and again in 2025, giving it strong reviews. If anything, the program should have been expanded to allow even more filers to use it. But companies like TurboTax that profit off the complexities of the tax system and depend on the IRS making it as difficult as possible for filers lobbied to terminate the program. In 2023 alone, companies spent $90 million lobbying against the program. It's according to Open Secrets. That spending has continued. Bloomberg reported that Intuit has spent $3 million lobbying so far in 2025, with a big focus on ending direct file. H&R Block has spent nearly $2.5 million on lobbying. Senator Ron Wyden reacted to the news out of the IRS. Quote, "The Trump administration operates like a laser-guided weapon aimed at any useful public service that saves Americans time and money. The only thing Trump accomplishes by doing this is stealing from working-class taxpayers to pad the profits of giant rent-seeking tax software companies." The recently passed Republican budget bill establishes some sort of public-private program that could potentially replace direct file. Whatever it is, it will have the buy-in from the tax prep companies, and therefore, it will likely suck. And finally, some good news. Sean Dunn, the Washington, D.C. man who called a border agent a fascist and chucked his Subway sandwich at him, has just been acquitted of all charges by a jury of his peers. The 3-day trial featured dramatic testimony from the officer who got open-faced. This is from The Independent. Quote, "A federal immigration officer has claimed that a sandwich thrown at him by a protester exploded on impact with such a force that he felt it through his ballistic vest. Quote, you could smell the onions and mustard, said CBP agent Gregory Lairmore. Damn, I hope Greg is okay. To borrow a pun from the Wall Street Journal's Josh Dawsey, the assault with a deadly weapon occurred back in August, right after Trump ordered the federal law enforcement takeover of Washington, D.C. The suffocating presence of federal agents and National Guard soldiers on the streets angered residents, and Dunn's act of Sando resistance outside a nightclub on a late summer night turned him into a folk hero. Murals went up in parts of the city depicting the sandwich toss. The Trump administration tried to make an example of Dunn. Even though he offered to turn himself in after the incident, federal agents instead stormed his apartment and perp-walked him in a video posted to the White House's official Twitter account. A lot of resources spent just to nab the po' boy, if you ask me. All for nothing after this week's verdict. Dunn's lawyers argued in court that the prosecution was vindictive and selective, and that Dunn was merely engaging in protected protest with a punctuated gesture at the end. Dunn himself addressed reporters after the verdict and gave a rather powerful statement.
I am so happy that justice prevails in spite of everything happening. And that night I believe that I was protecting the rights of immigrants. And let us not forget that the Great Seal of the United States says e pluribus unum. That means from many, one. Every life matters, no matter where you came from, no matter how you got here, no matter how you identify. You have the right to live a life that is free. Thank you.
Give that man a cape. Anyway, it's another humiliation for D.C. District Attorney Jeanine Pirro, who initially wanted to bring felony charges against Dunn, but couldn't find a grand jury to go along with it. So she settled on a misdemeanor assault and basically got laughed out of the courtroom. The implications of the verdict are pretty clear to me. I'll admit that foot-long turkey cheddars are not our best weapon against fascism, but they appear to be the only legal ones we have right now. Space billionaire Jared Isaacman is back in the running to be the next NASA administrator, and he has a secret plan to privatize most of the agency. Isaacman was initially tapped for the job by Trump earlier this year, but just ahead of his confirmation hearing, the White House yanked his nomination amid the feud between Trump and Elon Musk. Isaacman and Musk are close associates. Isaacman is an investor in SpaceX and used the company's resources for his own private space expedition in 2024. According to CNBC, Isaacman met with Trump last month to discuss the top NASA job again, and on Tuesday, in a social media post, Trump made it official and announced Isaacman would again be nominated to head up the space agency. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is currently running NASA on an interim basis, and multiple outlets are now reporting on a budding power struggle between Duffy and Isaacman. The stakes increased after Duffy criticized SpaceX for falling behind schedule on its $3 billion government contract to deliver a new moon lander. And Politico has now obtained a private memo Isaacman wrote on his plans for NASA that was likely leaked by Duffy or someone close to Duffy. The outlet cited sources who claimed Isaacman gave Duffy the document this summer and it was never meant to go public. Ars Technica reported that copies of Isaacman's manifesto are circulating on Capitol Hill too, and pissing off staff at NASA as well as at its more traditional contractor base, entities that put people on the moon and constructed interstellar satellites, power centers that are about to be replaced by companies that instead want to turn low Earth orbit into a shopping mall. The 62-page document known as Project Athena would transform NASA from an agency seeking knowledge in the cosmos, at least in theory, into an arm of space capital. This is from Politico. Quote, Isaacman's manifesto would radically change NASA's approach to science. He advocates buying science data from commercial companies instead of putting up its own satellites, referring to it as a science as a service. The document also recommends taking NASA out of the taxpayer-funded climate science business and leaving it for academia to determine. So let me get this straight. NASA is going to sell off all its satellites and space infrastructure to private interests and then pay those companies for access to the data it used to control? That sounds dumb as hell. Unless the entire point of this is to create a new revenue stream for billionaires like Isaacman and Musk. Oh, that's right. It is. The funny thing is, Duffy's vision for space isn't all that different from Musk's and Isaacman's. He just wants the NASA job so badly that he has to pretend that selling the agency off to space capitalists isn't his entire plan, too. One last thing left on the agenda for this week, and you know what it is. This week's rich dicks are Tesla shareholders. Well, most of them at least. The company announced Thursday that 75% of shareholders voted to approve a new compensation package that could enrich CEO Elon Musk by $1 trillion over the next decade. $1 trillion damn dollars. The deal also gives Musk greater control over the company, and he told investors exactly what he plans to do with it: build a robot army. Quote, I don't feel comfortable building that robot army if I don't have at least a strong influence. That's what he said, and investors heard that and thought to themselves, yeah, sure, give him $1 trillion to do it. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, which is a significant investor in Tesla, opposed the package, citing, quote, concerns about the total size of the award, dilution, and lack of mitigation of key person risk. But dissenters within Tesla didn't stand a chance, where a majority of shareholders are retail investors and Silicon Valley dipshits who have a parasocial relationship with Musk because he's capable of making the dumbest, most mediocre people feel like visionaries if they just pledge their devotion to him. That includes billionaires who are supposedly respected for their own business acumen, like billionaire Ron Barron, who created Barron Capital. He posted a lengthy statement on Twitter in support of the $1 trillion payout. He claimed, quote, "We believe Elon is not only perhaps the most extraordinary engineer on our planet, but an unusually competent business person." Unusually competent is certainly a word choice. I guess that is a good way to describe the business decision to spend 6 months tanking the company's stock while he ransacked the federal government and tried to stoke a race war online. Musk has pretty much alienated an entire continent's consumer base. Tesla sales in Europe have been plummeting all year. And a recent report published in the National Bureau of Economic Research really highlights Musk's unusual competence. It found that Musk's political activities reduced Tesla sales by more than 1 million cars and boosted competitor EV sales by roughly 20%. Any other CEO would have been thrown out, not given a $1 trillion raise. I mean, can Ron or any of these other brain geniuses explain to me how this robot thing is even supposed to work? Musk claims he's going to build 1 million of his Optimus robots that will do all the work for people, from emptying a dishwasher to performing surgery. But if you've ever seen any of these things in action, then you know they are not anywhere close to those capabilities. If they ever do get to that point, which is unlikely, but if they do, it'll be in the distant future. Musk is known for over-promising and under-delivering. 15 years ago, he promised SpaceX would be on Mars within 10 years. Even if the robots do work in the future, the technology will be prohibitively expensive, so that only a ruling elite will be able to buy them and enjoy their perks. That will lead to more working class people losing their jobs. And at the end of the day, I think we all know how the ruling class will actually use these robots if they do get sophisticated enough. They'll put guns on them and turn them into cops or personal security forces. In fact, Musk mused about this exact scenario during a Tesla event this week.
If somebody's committed crime, a more humane form of containment of future crime, which is if you say, like, you now get a free Optimus, and it's just going to follow you around and stop you from doing crime.
Yep, all that is very dystopic. But it's a vision that was just given approval by Musk's shareholders because at the end of the day, billionaires and rich dicks and even Tesla investors do stick up for each other. Though, that's probably why pedophilia is so rampant amongst them. All right, friends, the show ends today with a sunrise from Bolivia. It was sent in by Cecile in Rohrenbach in the Amazon jungle. Enjoy. Thank you, Cecile. That's the show. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Find more MMN at means.tv. We also have YouTube and podcast channels, and you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. One day, capitalism will fall. Until then, we will be right here. See you next week.